with this big news. You were awarded a $6 million grant from the Department of Defense. Obviously, that's a pretty good vouch of support, right, for this budding technology.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is very novel technology. We working already for several years. The drug tends to treat respiratory complications in different infections. And we think one of the infection is COVID-19 disease. So what drug tends to do is to restore normal function of injured lung, to support the entire body with oxygen and
And that's huge because in a lot of these fatal cases, it's the lung function that ultimately, causes someone to die. They're not able to breathe.
yes, exactly. And our drug is specifically developed for patients who will require different level of oxygen support. And we think we can prevent this patient to go to mechanical ventilation, which is invasive method to provide oxygenation of the lung and the body.
So basically, you think you'd be able to keep COVID-19 patients from having to go on a ventilator?
Exactly, and that will allow this patient time to fight with infection and help them to restore the lung function as well as the function of other organs, because everything depends on the lung function, because if there is no oxygenation, then entire body experience hypoxia, which is a specific pathological condition.
You created this drug. It's called VT109, correct?
Yes, we call it VT109 as a vascular therapeutics 109.
Okay. How long did it take you to create it?
So we had originally support from Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute. It was a drug development experimental program that's called VITA, Vascular Intervention and Therapeutic Advancement Program.
Okay.
So I was very lucky to be part of this very small group of the people who's been working on different type of drug for different disease. And the targeted disease was acute respiratory distress syndrome. So we had a prototype that we use to develop more potent, more active drug that will be able to treat and restore the function of the lung that's been already infected and injured.
And so did you start that work before the pandemic hit, or when the pandemic hit? I guess when in the timeline?
So we started working on this project before the pandemic, and we used different animal models of lung inflammation and injury to test the drug in animal models. And it showed to be extremely potent and effective. So we can treat animals that would die 24 hours later if they left untreated, and they restore completely function of the lung to the normal animal level that's never been challenged with any type of infection.
Okay.
So from that point, when the pandemic started, we submitted a grant to DoD. That was June 12, 2020. And of course, we didn't have any data that demonstrate the drug would be effective in COVID-19 model. But we proposed this work, and we were so lucky to receive this award. So that will support our preclinical study up to first in human clinical trial.
Okay.
So we will have manufacture of the drug that will be high quality, that will go to humans after this grant is completed. So we have to obtain additional funding for first-in-human clinical trial, but I think this is a very good start. The goal is to submit IND to FDA by end of the July 2024.
2024. Okay, so we're
In
talking
3 years.
3 years.
Yes.
And that's pretty typical. It takes that long to test and to make sure that,
Yeah.
this is safe for humans.
Exactly. So it will be safety as well as efficacy studies. We also will do series of studies that will help us understand the effect of the drug on different cell types inside of the lung, as well as how it treats COVID-19 infection itself.
Okay. You were telling me you came to Chicago from Russia. You've spent your entire career here. How important is it that Chicago and UIC are at the forefront of what could be a game-changer COVID-19 treatment?
It's very important because our department, the Department of Pharmacology and Regenerative Medicine, it has a multiple program that's trying to understand the mechanism of the lung injury during inflammation. I think it's provide a unique environment for scientists like myself to grow and develop potential therapeutics.
And this grant's gonna go a long way to help do that as well.
Yes, so it will be absolutely sufficient to move this drug to first-in-human clinical trial.
Okay. I know that you're pretty confident this drug could help recovering COVID patients, help their lungs so that they don't end up on a ventilator. Do you also think it could end up saving lives?
Absolutely. One of the complications of COVID-19, as well as acute respiratory distress syndrome itself, when it has even other causes, not COVID-19 necessarily, it's cytokine storm. Because when the inflammation is not controlled properly, so that's what's happened. And that causes multi-organ failure and death. In our previous models, we use as a survival rate as a measure of effectiveness of the drug. We demonstrated that we can treat animals that experience clinical symptoms of acute respiratory distress syndrome, and we can reverse function of the lung to the normal level that we observe in the animals that's never been challenged with any inflammation.
Wow, you can reverse the damage.
And and we saw that it has the drug is very effective in increasing the survival rate of animals. Basically, 90 to 100% of animals die if they left untreated. And we have survival in animal treatments, in animal treated with our VT109 drug up to 80%.
Wow.
So considering that the death and mortality, it's not the major outcome of the COVID-19, we expect that we can save majority of the patients.
And that's huge.
Yeah, of course, because it's only what matters is for the patients where they survive this very devastating disease.